Good morning, everyone. Today, with ringing our peace bowl, we affirm our collective hope for peace. We acknowledge that these lands that we love are the ancestral lands of the Yavapai people. Please join us for this call and response chant titled Navajo Blessing Way, co-written by Nancy Rumble and Rita Cantu.
Hello, it's wonderful to be back. It's been many years, I think, since I've been here. This is, of course, the familiar Blessing Way chant that most of you, or rather the prayer that most of you are undoubtedly familiar with. The Diné or Navajo Blessing Way, beauty before me, beauty behind me. And I'm going to kind of set a tone for it. And there was this call and response, not kind of, it is a call and response chant. So pay attention. We always sing it 4 times for the 4 directions, and perhaps calling in the spirit of nature, the spirit of those who have been before, the ancestors, the 4-legged, the 2-legged, the winged ones, the rooted ones most especially. Beauty before me I walk, beauty behind me I walk, beauty above me I walk, beauty below I walk, beauty all about me I walk, in beauty all is made whole, in beauty all is restored. Here we go. Beauty before me, beauty before me, beauty behind me I walk, beauty above me I walk, beauty below me I walk, beauty all about me I walk, in beauty all is in beauty
that was wonderful and fun for me too. So welcome everyone. Good morning and welcome to this beautiful morning at Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Prescott, Arizona. I'm Leslie Grady, your worship associate today. I hope some of you saw my video that I made with Grandfather Tree. That was the first time we've tried that, and it's nice to see all of you here. We extend a warm welcome to all of you. Many of you, we have some guests that are friends of Doug and Amy, and it's nice to see you all here. And we're happy to have Doug and Amy here, and of course, a wonderful musician, Rita Cantu. At this time, we would like for Doug or Rick Denny to come up and make an announcement.
Thank you, Leslie. As we all learned a couple of weeks ago, the board postponed asking the congregation to vote on spending any further money on plans to renovate this facility, the sanctuary. We want to be the sanctuary group, which has been an ad hoc group that's been meeting over the last 2 or 3 years, is the latest of several groups and individuals who have been envisioning what this sanctuary might look like, might become, since the building was purchased many, many years ago. As we learned at the congregational meeting and the week before that, when Rachel Maxwell, the consultant who we hired to kind of evaluate the congregation, we don't as a congregation have a unified idea of what we might want to do with the sanctuary. Do we want to leave it the same? Do we just want to decorate more? Do we want to do something more, more extensive? So the group that has been meeting has decided, and the board has basically decided, that we need to put off any spending on further plans, but to undertake a detailed attempt to bring everybody up to date about all the thinking and ideas that have gone on for years about what we might do with this space. So accordingly, what we have over on the left with a couple spotlights on the wall over there is kind of the first step in kind of getting people to realize how much work has been done by many people over the years to envision what this space might be like. Now, the plan is to continue and provide multiple ideas and to seek your ideas. In each of the various places where there's things displayed, there's some post-it notes. We'd love your comments. We're going, the team and any additional people who want to participate can look at the suggestions, and we're going to try to come up with ideas and to come by the end of the summer to some kind of consensus about what we want to do, if we want to do, and so forth with this building. So we encourage you to look at the ideas that have developed really over many years and to give your feedback. Pay attention to videos that might come out, links in the weekly peak or in the email. Really pay attention and start thinking about what you feel about this space. There are many folks here over the years have felt this is a wonderful community, and Rachel Maxwell gave us all really good kudos in terms of being a wonderful community of loving people who really care about each other. And we're here for the people, we all understand that. But I think it would be hard to argue that this space is conducive to thinking about the infinite, to walk into the space. It's just not a space that appeals to many people, and many of us feel that we might be able to attract more people who would come through the door the first time and decide not to really find out what's here. So we encourage you to look at the things, and I think different things are going to be posted each week. Make your comments and please give feedback. Please think about this process, because toward the end of the summer, maybe in August, we're probably going to come back to the question about do we want to spend a little money to really come to some definite plans about how to proceed? Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And now this is our mission statement of the congregation. We are a compassionate spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world in which we live. Please join us today after the service for coffee and socializing in small groups in Davis Hall. If you are viewing the service on Zoom, please join us for the breakout rooms after the service. If you are joining us for the first time, please check out our website at prescottuu.org for more information about us. And if you are here in person, there will be time to introduce yourself at the end of our service. And then please stay and chat with a member or two. There are refreshments in Davis Hall across the foyer to enjoy together after the service, and you can chat with Doug and Rita. And then I believe it's 11:45 that the meeting that was in your email will be here in the sanctuary if you'd like to return. So we thank Reverend Doug Bland, musician Rita Cantu, Elaine Hayes, and all our Sunday morning volunteers. Please take a moment to set your phones on worship mode. In addition to the announcements that were shown on the screen before the service, you can read about other things happening at GPUUC in the weekly Peak newsletter, on our website, in Reverend Patty's videos, and we've got some printed copies of the announcements on the welcome table. Sandra Palacios, our faith development coordinator, is teaching ages 5 and older across the street at our faith development building. We have a nursery in this building for kids under 5. And I noticed today when I was looking at the order of service that Sandra and the children are having a lesson right along with the Lorax, and like Doug's doing for us in here. So a bit about Doug. We've known Doug for some years now. He's Reverend Doug Bland. He's the founder and former executive director of Arizona Interfaith Power and Light, a spiritual response to the climate crisis. He now serves as AZIPL ambassador. The AZIPL board is where he and Patrick got to know each other. As a new grandfather, he has yet another reason to care for the future of our precious planet home. He retired from the Community Christian Church in Tempe, where he served as pastor for 23 years. The church's interreligious and multicultural storytelling concerts earned the Diversity Award from the Tempe Human Relations Commission. He has served as adjunct faculty at the South Mountain Community College Storytelling Institute. We begin our service in the Unitarian Universalist tradition of lighting the chalice. Our chalice lighter this morning is Patrick Grady. Today we light the chalice to honor Mother Earth, her majestic trees, flowing rivers, soaring birds, and all the other living creatures. May we feel a magical presence among nature and do our part to honor and protect this delicate balance. Thanks. And now, Reverend Bland.
Thank you, Leslie. It's great to be here again. It's fun to look out and see some familiar faces. We had an event called Sacred Earth, Common Ground, where some of you came and told stories about times when you've stood on holy ground. And we're using that as a way to reach across and bridge the cultural and political divides that exist in our society. Storytelling, we always say that the shortest distance between two people is always a story. Today, one of the titles we've used is Speaking for the Trees, which of course comes from the Lorax, but it might be better, or another aspect of it is listening to the trees. The mystics have often said that if we could just sit and listen to a part of creation, if we could listen to a tree long enough, we would never have to hear another sermon. Because the essence of the divine is right there in the tree if we could only have ears to hear and eyes to see. So one of the things we've learned from trees lately is that there's no such thing as an individual tree. All of them are deeply, deeply connected with messages, not just of nutrition, but also survival and life, all connected by the wood wide web. No such thing as an individual tree, no such thing as an individual human being. We're all connected with each other and with the natural world. And that's what brings us together today. Rita is a new friend and wonderful musician that you've heard a taste of. She's doing a song called Don't Forget.
Last night, as I lay on my bed, I dreamt the strangest dream. I dreamt I walked the mountainside in the forest by a stream. As I walked, the shadows grew and lengthened in the dark. And before I knew it, I had lost the trail that I walked. Then the trees around me gathered deep into the gloom, till I felt that I had been enshrined alive in my tomb. I stood bewildered and afraid, unsure which way to flee. 'Twas then I saw the path they made. The trees had moved away. As I stood inside the clearing, there shone an eerie light, and my eyes were treated to a most unusual sight. Slowly then, the trees began to sway in the wind, and an old tree leaning down greeted me as a friend. Then slowly they began to dance with the tune of the wind. Their boughs they bent and lifted high. They held me in their limbs. Round and round we pirouetted, reaching for the stars. It seemed the whole world danced with us, and all creation was ours. Then the wind picked up its tempo, and the song began. Every voice within the forest, all the life in the land. Too soon the song did end. The trees then slowed their step. They gently brought me to the ground, and they whispered, "Don't forget." Now every time the wind blows through the trees, I hear the song. It seems their branches sway, why they've been dancing all along. And my spirit lifts upon their branches, reaching high. If I stretch my hands out, I might even touch the sky. The dream I woke from long ago, it seems like yesterday yet, that all creation danced with me and whispered, "Don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget."
Amazing. Thank you so much. Wow. Please join me in saying the words to our covenant. The words are on the screen. Love is the doctrine of this congregation, the quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to serve others in community, thus do we covenant together. Oh, thanks so much, Rita. That was a story in itself. Thank you. Our beloved community is the heart of Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation. As we experience a time of meditation and music, we will take a few minutes to silently acknowledge the joys and concerns of our hearts and minds. If there is an event which moves you to joy or concern, hope or gratitude, I invite you to come forward silently and drop a pebble from this dish into our communal water as an affirmation of our connection to one another. And we have one on either side. Thank you. May our joys and concerns surrounded by the healing communal water of our beloved community be acknowledged here today. So may it be. Please sing these words of comfort. It will show up on the slide. As we prepare to take the offering this morning, let us embrace the feeling of connection and community that we have when we gather here each week. Let us remember that this congregation and its programs are supported by your generosity. We also give back to the greater community through our Seeds of Support program. This month's recipient is Northland Cares. Please read about them in your order of service. To give online, the link is available in the chat, or you can go to the website. Please enjoy our offertory music, "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple," written by Elder Joseph Brackett in 1848 and performed by Rita Cantu.
My pants are slippery and the dulcimer don't stay still. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we are in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we will not be ashamed. To turn 'twill be our delight, till by turning we come round right. I can see mouths moving, so why don't you join me? Just let it out. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we are in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we will not be ashamed. To turn 'twill be our delight, till by turning we come around right. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we will not be ashamed. To turn 'twill be our delight, till by turning we come round right.
We acknowledge the generosity of spirit expressed through this offering. What is given in love is received in gratitude. Blessed be. And now for our reading is a poem, When I Am Among the Trees by Mary Oliver, and it will be read by Doug's wife, Amy Bird.
When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me, the trees stir in their leaves and call out, stay a while. The light flows through their branches. And they call again. It's simple, they say. And you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light and to shine.
I knew that Rita was a accomplished musician. Is this working okay? There it is. I knew Rita was an accomplished musician, but I had no idea. My goodness. I mean, if the service was longer, we'd have a banjo and an accordion joining us as well. Glad to be with you again. It was so nice yesterday to get in the car in Tempe at almost 100 degrees, drive up here and it's almost 25 or 30 degrees cooler. And besides that, it's really good to see you as well. I've developed some friendships here at Granite UU, and thank you, Patrick and Leslie, for your hospitality. I've had the pleasure in the last few years of rubbing elbows almost every week with some of my environmental heroes and sheroes. So I've had the occasion to ask them, what is it that makes you tick? Why do you do this work that you do, often for little remuneration, with great frustration, in a culture that seems hell-bent on destroying itself and taking the rest of nature with you? And they've got some answers that are in common. They all say, well, at some point I fell in love. If you've heard me talk before, you've often heard me say the number one thing you can do for the environment is to fall in love. It's said that in order to stay spiritually alive, you need to fall in love at least 3 times a day. And you might think that would threaten your significant relationships. But I'd suggest to you that there are enough red rock canyons and enough canyon wrens and enough saguaro cacti and enough distant planets and enough butterflies and enough to fall in love 3 times a day between here and eternity, much less between here and the end of our short and fragile lives. So these people have fallen in love, and people protect what they love. Some of them say, well, it's deeper than that for me. It's habit. Oh, what's your habit? Breathing, they say. And clean air really helps. Others say, well, it's because of my addiction. Oh, what's your addiction? Eating, drinking. I've tried to go without for a while, but it doesn't take too long before my stomach starts feeling weak and my hands begin to tremble. If I talk with them long enough, I often hear about one of the influences of their lives being the Lorax, a story that they heard when they were children or that they still treasure as adults. It's a book that was published in 1971, the year that I graduated from high school. And I'm not sure that I paid too much attention to it at the time it was published. We had other things on our mind at that time. Our hedonistic chant was sin, sex, booze, fun. We're the class of 71. So I'm not sure I was paying much attention at the time. Those of us who were had low draft numbers were paying attention to the news about Vietnam, but not so much about the environment for our class, I confess. And if we had ears to hear and eyes to see, there was a lot that was going on at the time if we weren't otherwise distracted. 1962 was when Rachel Carson wrote and published her book, Silent Spring. And for at least white Westerners, that was marked as the beginning of the environmental movement. For indigenous people, you know, this is old hat to them. This is the essence. But for us, the environment movement started in about 62. In 68, a photograph was taken from Apollo 8. And this is Leslie and Amy and I hiking in the trees. But there's a photograph that was taken that's been called the most influential environmental photograph ever taken from outer space, Earthrise, taken on Christmas Eve from Apollo 8, as they look back and they saw this beautiful little Christmas ornament Earth floating in the darkness of space. In 1968, 3 years before or 69, January of that year, a couple years before I graduated, there was an oil spill in California, in Santa Barbara. And for the first time, some of us saw some of the birds that were soaked with oil that they were trying to clean up. It's still the biggest environmental spill in California in history. In June of that year, a train was going across the bridge in Cleveland, and a spark from the train fell into the Cuyahoga River, and it caught on fire. The river caught on fire. And all of this was enough to make us sit up and pay attention. And so the first Earth Day was 1970. 20 million people at that time, 10% of the US population took to the streets to protest for Mother Earth. I don't know if we did very much in my high school class for that very first Earth Day. Mr. Barris, my biology teacher, was a big influence for me, and he, I think he led us in a campus cleanup on that day. But again, we had other things on our mind. But fortunately, Theodore Geisel was paying attention. Dr. Seuss. He'd been working on this story. He'd read a lot of environmental publications and information at that time, but he said it was boring. And it was, I'm hesitant to use the term in this context, it was preachy. So he wanted to write something that was more compelling, a story. The problem was he kept working on it and he had writer's block. Nothing came. So his wife, Audrey, arranged for them to go to Kenya, to stay in the Mount Kenya Safari guest house. And there he was so inspired that it said he wrote the Lorax, 90% of it in one afternoon. We've always assumed that he was inspired by the cypress trees that he was fighting to protect from developers coming in and cutting down. But we've learned recently that maybe he was influenced in Kenya by the whistling thorn acacia. That was the tree that inspired the story. And there's this monkey there called the patas monkey that may have, they've even done facial recognition studies between the patas monkey and the Lorax. And you can see the amazing resemblance between the two, both of them looking kind of grumpy. So Amy and I were on our way to Kenya when that study was published in 2018 in Nature, Ecology, and in Environment. And so we went on a mission to try to find the whistling thorn acacia and the patas monkey. We spent 4 days walking through the Rift Valley, and whistling thorn acacia trees were all over the place. We looked hard for the patas monkey and never saw it. But our guide said, if it's any comfort to you, you didn't see the monkey, but the monkey saw you. So he wrote this wonderful story that's been an inspiration for so many of us, the Lorax. You probably know the story pretty well, but it's good to remind ourselves a little bit of the outline of that story. It starts with a young boy who goes to this part of town that's just been decimated by pollution and land abuse. At the far end of town where the grickle grass grows and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows and no bird sings except some old crows, lies the street of the lifted Lorax. Part of the appeal of the Lorax is the amazing characters that we see, these creatures. It's also the playful language, but it's also the rhythm that we hear. It's called anapestic tetrameter. So there are 4 syllables or 4 lines, each with 3 syllables. The first 2 are unaccented and the third one is accented. So it sounds a little bit like this. Try that with me. What's that sound like? Heartbeat, human heartbeat, maybe the heartbeat of the earth, maybe the heartbeat of the cosmos itself. So we're attracted by the rhythm of that language. There, where the gristlegrass grows in this polluted area, this young person meets the Onceler, this industrialist who's gone into this place and found it at one time a beautiful place, way back in the day when the grass was still green and the pond was still wet and the clouds were still clean. But he discovers that there's this tree that he can manufacture thneeds out of. If you go to Amazon, you can order a thneed to this day, and it will be delivered to your house by 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So he starts chopping down these trees to make the thneeds. And when he chops the first one down, out of the trunk pops the Lorax. I'm the Lorax and I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees because the trees have no tongues. And I'm telling you, sir, at the top of my lungs. The Lorax has been criticized sometimes for being way too grumpy and mean and negative. But there are those who say that Dr. Seuss was inspired by scripture. He was a good Lutheran member and he knew the scripture well. And so maybe the Lorax is none other than the prophet, Jeremiah especially. Israel didn't listen to Jeremiah, and the Onceler didn't listen to the Lorax. He just kept chopping trees and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it was decimating the land and decimating the species that existed there. I'm the Lorax and I speak for the trees, but I also speak for the brown barbaloots that play in the shade in their barbaloot suits. But he has to send them away because my poor barbaloots, they've all got the crummies because they have gas and no food in their tummies. And not just the barbaloots, but the swanny swans and the hummingbird hums. He sends, the Lorax sends them away to find safer places for home. They'll walk on their fins and get woefully weary in search of some water that's not quite so smeary. The scientists have a name for this. They call it trophic collapse. And it's when one species that's dependent on another species that's dependent on another species, all the environment collapse, and so they have to leave. It's said that by 2050, half of the species are in danger of becoming endangered species at the rate that we're going. So the Lorax keeps trying to warn the Onceler about the impact of his behavior, but he doesn't listen. He just keeps biggering and biggering and biggering and biggering until one day, you know, out in the field, we hear this sickening smack. From out in the field came the awful whack of the axe on a tree, and the last tree falls, the very last truffula tree of them all. So he packs up, you know, lots of promises of good jobs that are coming with this new industry. But as soon as the land gets decimated and the species are destroyed, the big companies disappear. And that's what happened with the Onceler. So he takes off. And all that's left behind in this mess is a pile of rocks and one word, unless. We went out to El Gato Azul last night for dinner, and I went into the bathroom, and there behind the toilet is this sign that says essentially, you know, I'm the Lorax, I speak for the trees. Unless someone like you cares a whole awfully lot, nothing is going to get better. It's just not in that restaurant bathroom. Unless, what could that possibly mean? The Onceler cogitates on this for years and wonders and worries about it. Unless. But then he says, now that you're here, the words of the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awfully lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. So catch, says the Onceler, and he lets something fall. It's a truffula seed, the last one of them all. Plant a truffula tree, because truffula trees are what everyone needs. Plant a forest, protect it from axes that hack, and one day the Lorax and all of his friends may come back. Try that. Let it be heard at Thumb Butte. Let it be heard at Granite Mountain. Let it be heard in the red rocks of Sedona. Let the gray Mexican wolf hear it. Let it be heard. Let it be heard. let it be heard. Amen.
Let's listen to John Denver, the environmentalist and climate change activist, sing a song, Plant a Tree for Your Tomorrow. That was really great. Good follow-up to Doug's sermon. And with the extinguishing of our chalice, our worship time has ended and now our service begins. We extinguish this flame, light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. So now I invite you to take as much time as you wish to visit with your friends and visitors online or here in person. Doug and Rita and Amy and Patrick and myself will all be over in Davis Hall to chat if you'd like. For those on Zoom, you can go to the breakout room now. And if there are some visitors with us, would you please introduce yourselves? Been here before? All right, well, I think we'll talk with you over in Davis Hall. I now invite you to take a moment to greet your neighbors, especially those visiting for the first time. Enjoy refreshments in Davis Hall and enjoy chatting with our guests today. Thank you for coming.